Should you perform on stage with session view or arrangement view? In this video, I want to share 3 questions, 3 things you can consider to help you decide what's best for you in your exact scenario. I think this conversation is a really good conversation to have. I think it's a difficult thing to decide on just by simply watching a YouTube video. And I think one of the big reasons is when you hear the word performance, you think of different things. I think of something different than you think of. Well, it all comes down to our own experience, our own bias. For me personally, when I think of a performance, I think of a band on stage, a group of musicians performing on stage. So my thought of performance typically leads to what I would say is maybe a more traditional performance, which is musicians on stage playing together. That then leads to a certain preference and a certain kind of position I take towards which view I should use on stage when I'm performing. But maybe for you, when you hear performance, you think a live looping performance. You think of an artist recording audio in real time and building loops in real time to build up to be a song, to create this really cool kind of one-of-a-kind moment. Maybe that's what you hear when you think of performance. So that's why it's difficult when watching a YouTube video to take someone's particular experience and context and try to apply it perfectly to your context. So what I want to try to do to help a little bit and in this quick tutorial is, again, provide 3 questions, 3 things we should consider to hopefully help us decide what's best. Again, not for me in my context, but what's best for your context. So I think the number 1 question we have to ask, the first thing, is this a non-linear performance or is this a linear performance? And by that, I simply mean this. Let's start by talking about a non-linear performance. Here's a couple examples I have. Non-linear performance would be a live looping performance. This is, again, someone building loops up in real time, recording audio, building loops to then kind of create a song to play it in real time. Ed Sheeran, Rachel Collier, folks like that are, again, doing this live in the moment and building something up to be something else. The other things I wrote down is jam band. I think of a band that steps on stage and they just, play a song. They just kind of jam endlessly for as long as they want to. They have no real direction or plan. They just kind of see what happens. Something that's like an improv style band, a band that gets up and says, maybe we're going to play some jazz covers and here's an A section and a B section, and we'll just play the A section, the B section, then we'll do solos and we'll take turns. Maybe it's like a DJ style performance. Again, genre has nothing to do with this. I'm not talking about if you use electronic music, it's a non-linear performance. I just mean a DJ style performance where you're like triggering a clip in Ableton Live. You say, here's my drum part, here's my keys part, I'm triggering clips, building loops, and then I'm gonna bring that together to do a full song. Well, if that's you, if you are in a non-linear type performance like that, then I would highly suggest that you use session view. You're stepping on stage without a plan. And I don't want you to get the sense that I'm trying to say that's a bad thing or not having a plan is a bad thing. It's just the type of performance you're doing. Every performance is going to be one of a kind. Every single performance is going to be unique to that particular moment. You don't want to repeat and do the same thing twice, right? Those are really fun performances to be a part of. If that's you, then I highly suggest you consider session view, because session view is non-linear in nature. It's a way to step on stage and trigger sections and play them for as long as they will play, which is forever in Ableton Live, and then trigger the next section and move on. But there's another type of performance, and that's a linear performance. This is, again, when I think of like a more traditional style performance, a band stepping on stage, this is what I mean. It means you're playing a song with structure. Now, I want to stress, this does not mean you are stuck to a structure. It just simply means you say, hey, we're going to play this song. This song has an intro, a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus, a couple other verses, a couple other bridges, and then we end with an outro. Now, within that structure, we could still repeat. We could still jump around. We can have spontaneity and freedom and flexibility in that, but we have some sort of predetermined structure, right? Like I said, this is what most bands do. This is what I think most artists do, even in like a solo performance, is maybe they tell a story, then they step on stage and they play a song from start to finish. Now, let me talk to folks in this scenario, right? If you're in a linear scenario, and I want to talk to folks, let me get even more specific, to the concept of using tracks on stage and backing tracks on stage. Again, most of us in a linear type performance scenario are going to be using backing tracks. We're in a band scenario. If you find yourself in that scenario, do whatever you want to. Honestly, I'm not going to lose any sleep at night if you use session view to run tracks, but I would highly consider that you consider using arrangement view. Your life will be easier. You're going to spend way less time. Just try it, just consider it. Because what I see so many people do is use session view and do all this work to turn session view, this nonlinear view, into a very linear view to play their tracks, right? To get a song to play from intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, we have to do a lot of work to make that happen in session view. Unless, of course, you just leave it as one single clip, then it plays through and you lose the ability to jump around and repeat. Again, you do you, but just consider something new. Now, number 2, here's the second question, second scenario I think you should consider to help you decide session view, arrangement view, is how involved do you want to be? I can teach you how to set up Ableton Live so that your band can step on stage, press play at the beginning, your very first song, play all the way through song 1, jump to song 2, get your transitions perfectly. If you want to repeat, you can press one button on your MIDI controller to repeat. If you want to jump from a chorus to the second bridge, I can show you with one button on your MIDI controller to jump to that. That, I think, is probably most of us that are stepping on stage, again, in a linear type performance. In that scenario, you should consider arrangement view. It's very hands-off. It's very, let me get the details just right. Let me set everything up so I can just press play and be very hands-off. Now, what if you're the other type of person? You want the audience to be amazed at the fact that you made it through the performance. You want the audience to look at you and go, wow, that performance was so amazing. It was one of a kind. I could really see the sweat, pouring down their faces. They're going from this section to that section. They started that song and I had no clue if they were ever going to make it or be able to pull it off, but they did. You want people to notice how you're performing, right? In that scenario, I think you should use session view because you can, again, do something very non-linear. You can trigger a section, be in it as long as you want to. If you're doing any live looping thing whatsoever, you should definitely use session view. I've seen people set up arrangement view to do live looping where they like record a section and move on. I just don't think that's the right thing for you. Don't try to turn arrangement view into session view. Use session view to create that non-linear performance. Okay, now let's talk about a third question here in just a second. But before I do that, I want to ask you to consider subscribing. So if you like performing on stage with Ableton Live, I post a brand new tutorial every single day at 10 a.m. Central. I'll be honest, most of the content on this channel is from my perspective, my context, which is using backing tracks on stage with a band. I've been thinking a lot though recently about expanding and talking a little more about live looping, DJ style scenarios. I even had someone say, hey, in my band, I'm in a scenario where we use a lot of shout tracks or bump tracks and just drum loops that loop over and over. Can you show us how to do that? Well, that's something I'm highly considering doing, but what's really gonna help is if you subscribe, hit the bell icon, and let me know in the comments, hey, Will, I wanna see more content like that. I would love to see that. Or again, maybe you're in a band, you're running tracks, you wanna hear what I talked about earlier, which is this really cool, the promise of stepping on stage and pressing play and not having to stress about it. You'll learn exactly how to do that. Hit subscribe, enable the bell icon. Again, every single day, 10 a.m. Central, I post a brand new tutorial and I don't want you to miss it. Now, number 3, the scenario, the question I want you to ask is how much else is happening? Let's say you're on stage performing tracks. Again, I'm going to make it about my context for a second. I'm going to be selfish. I'm in a band performing on stage using tracks. You could use session view. You could do the work to turn a non-linear view into a linear view. That's fine. Okay, whatever. Do what you want to do. But I think this decision becomes way more definite when you're doing a lot more. Let's say you have a lot of automation. You're controlling lights. You're controlling video elements. You've got visuals with your music that you're doing. You're controlling your guitar pedals, your keys presets with Ableton Live. If you're doing that, I highly, highly suggest you use Arrangement View. Arrangement View is going to give you this timeline. You can drop clips in to go exactly at this moment. I'm going to go to this exact preset. I can drop this program change in and go exactly to that moment. It's going to make your life so much easier. When you do that in Session View, if you've got a lot going on, a lot of automation going on, you're just going to be stuck with this timeline and you're going to look at it and go, okay, measure 237. Is that my verse? Is that my chorus? Is that my bridge? I'm not sure. Maybe you could then chop that up and bring that into different song sections, but then you're looking at, okay, measure 20, is measure 20, which part is this? Which part of the verse is this? As opposed to if you just stay in arrangement view, stay in that linear view. Again, you could still repeat, you could still jump around really easily, but if we stay in that view, then we can really have a really simple grasp on all the other things that are happening in our moment. So I hope those 3 questions get you a little closer to deciding what's best for you. Not my context, your context, session view or arrangement view. But to wrap up, I want to ask you a question. Let me know in the comments, what view do you use to perform, and let me know exactly why. And then finally, I want to wrap up with an encouragement to you. Whatever view you're using, session view or arrangement view. Try just once, one performance in the other view. You may be surprised how much you like it and how much you can learn by stepping out of your context and putting yourself in the shoes of someone else. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.